Welcome back once again into the new edition of our discussion series. We are discussing the famous poem The Rime of Ancient Mariner, written by S.T. Coleridge. Already we have discussed part 1 and part 2. So those who are really willing to watch and who has not taken a glimpse of part 1, part 2, so just before entering into the part 3, have a quick look into the part 1 and part 2, because that will be quite helpful in understanding the poem. The background situation was that the mariner is speaking with the wedding guest. In fact, the mariner is expressing the compelling story from his heart, the experiences that he has had in his real experience while taking a voyage. So today, without wasting much more time, we will take a quick look into the part 3 of the poem, The Rime of Ancient Mariner. And in this poem, we shall try to see the further proceeding of the action, what happened in the life of all the mariners, and how they escaped from their stagnant condition, from their circumcised condition, from their miserable condition. So, before entering into the part 3, have a request to all of you, just subscribe my channel and just share so that the other learners can learn from this video. So this is the main motive of making this video. So let's go into the part 3 of the poem, The Rime of Ancient Mariner. There passed a weary time, each throat was parched, and glazed each eye. A weary time, how glazed each weary eye. So this is the first four line of part 3. So here what is said that there passed a weary time. So the speaker, the mariner is speaking that they passed a weary time, a time which is stagnant, as if the time has stopped for their life. So they were in pain, they were in agony, and time seemed to them stopped before them. So there is no proceeding, there is no escape from their stagnant condition, from their suffocating condition. Each throat was parched. So all the mariners' throat, all the mariners' tongue are really dry. They are similarly their throats are really dry, and glazed each eye. And it seems to all the mariners that each other's eyes are just become lifeless, as if they are made of glass ball, because the eyes are really expressionless and they are not expressing anything else rather than fear that engulfed them in their ship, and that really brought in their life a miserable condition. A weary time, how glazed is weary eye. So the speaker again mentions that the time was really weary, really boredom, really time has stopped and is not at all proceeding a further step. And in such a situation, everyone's eyes, which are really weary, which are really tired, seems lifeless, seems motionless. When looking westward, I beheld something in the sky. The speaker, the mariner, said that whenever he had a glimpse towards west, he saw something in the sky. So, in the sky, there is something which may be propitious or which may be ominous in their life. The speaker does not know, but what he saw that there is a certain kind of rays of hope, because something is going to happen, because it is better than nothing to have at all. So here the scenery that the speaker sees in the west sky is really going to bring about a certain change in their life. At first it seemed a little speck, and then it seemed a mist. It moved and moved, and took at last a certain shape I wished. So actually here wished means to become aware of something or to assume something. At first it seemed a little speck. So whenever the mariner saw towards the western sky, he saw that there was a point, there was a little dot which is approaching towards their ship. Then it seemed a mist, and gradually this dot or this peak becomes quite a hazy and seem to the speaker that it is nothing more than a mist. It moved and moved, and gradually this peak, in the form of mist, in the form of a hazy something else, moved towards their ship and took at last a certain shape. Finally, whenever the speaker gazed at the dot, he saw that it is not at all a dot or it is not at all a speck. Rather, it is a figure. It has a certain kind of shape which can be assumed from the appearance. A speck, a mist, a shape, I wished. And still it neared and neared. So gradually, what is coming towards them, this element seems to the mariner first a speck, and then a mist, and then there appears a concrete shape. And still it neared and neared, and this figure or this shape is gradually coming near to the ship. As if it dodged a water spirit, it plunged and tugged and veered, and whenever this figure or whenever this shape was approaching near to their ship, it is making a zigzag voyage. It is making a zigzag way, as if it is trying to avoid some of the water spirit, some of the doomed water spirit that may lead them astray. It plunged and tugged and veered, and this shape is approaching towards their ship, uh, and as if directing itself, as if finding a way to reach to their ship itself. With throats unslacked, with black lips baked, we could nor love nor wail. Through utter growth all dumb we stood. I beat my arm, I sucked the blood, and cried, a cell, a cell. This is a crucial change. In fact, this is going to be a crucial one, and this is really important line. So earlier we have come to know that all the throats of the mariners are really dry, and they are not able to speak out of their emotions of their heart. But here, what the speaker, the mariner, is trying to do is really spectacular, is really unimaginable. With throats unslacked, so everyone's throats are really dry and parched, with black lips baked, and everyone's lips are really black and dry, as if they are baked. If we prepare a bread, the bread becomes dry due to the fire or due to the heat. Similarly, here, everyone's lips are baked. We could not laugh nor wail. After watching the scenario, after watching the figure which is approaching towards the ship, we cannot, all the mariners cannot speak, cannot laugh, and even cannot wail. Through utter growth, all dumb we stood. Due to the utter thrust, due to the utter growth, all the mariners were dumb. I bit my arm, I sucked the blood and cried, a cell, a cell. This means that the mariner or the speaker is totally unable to speak out what he is actually seeing in the ocean. So, only to speak out and only to moisturize his tongue, he beat his arm and he sucked the blood from the laceration from the arm, and then, after moisturizing his throat, the mariner said, "Eshel, Eshel." He addressed the other mariner and asked them to look towards the western sky, that a sail is approaching towards them. With throats unslacked, with black lips baked agape, they heard me call. So, whenever the mariner is speaking to all the co-mariners, all the sailors, uh, that they really looked and heard his appeal, but their throats were really unslacked. Their throats are totally dry, and their lips are baked. Their lips are too dry. Agape they heard me call. They were just open mouthed, and they only hear my call. What the speaker is saying to them, all the other mariners, other sailors heard them. Gramercy, they for joy did grin, and then they in joy smiled, and said that at last, by grace of God, by grace of Mary, that something is coming there to provide them salvation from their depressing condition, from their suffocating, stagnant condition. And all at once their breath drew in, as they were drinking all. And after seeing that something is coming towards them, they were so much joyful that they began to breathe, and their breath, their taking of air into their heart is compared with the drinking of water. Whenever we drink, whenever we gulp water, the gulp reaches to our belly, our stomach, etc. Similarly, their breath takes the air from the outside world, and the air goes into the inner organ, into their heart, into their stomach, in such a way that they begin to breathe, they begin to feel their life force again. See, see, I cried, she takes no more hither to work us well, without a bridge, without a tide, she steadies with upright keel. The speaker, the mariner, is again shrieking, again crying that the upcoming ship is not going through zigzag way, rather it is coming to stay beside their ship, hitherto to work us well. So this means that the ship is there to save them from their condition, from their suffocating condition, without a bridge, without a tide. And whenever that ship, the approaching ship, is towing towards them, there is no kind of bridge, there is no kind of tide. Still, the ship is approaching towards them. She steadies with upright keel. Keel is nothing but a certain kind of plank that is usually placed just beneath of a ship to keep its direction straight. So whenever that ship is coming, the ship steadies with upright keel. The ship keeps its direction quite straight, keeps its keel quite straight. The western wave was all a flame, and this is the indication that the western sky, usually what we see that in western sky the sun sets. That means that the sun is now going to set in the western sky, and as a result the crimson color uh, uh, produces a certain kind of flame like color which is reflected in the water of the sea. So therefore It is said that the western wave was all a flame. Towards the western sky, the water seems really crimson color, really looks like a flame. The day was all night done. Now the day is coming to an end after its full service. So the day was all there with its sparkle, but now it is the time for the sun to set down. Almost upon the western wave rested the broad bright sun, and upon the western wave where there is sea, just above the wave there is a bright broad sun. When that strange shape drove suddenly betwixt us and the sun, and whenever that strange shape, that strange figure is approaching towards them, their attention goes towards the sun and towards them. So this means that they were all the mariners were standing in their ship, and just in the western sky there is sun, and between them, between the mariners and the sun, there is the strange figure approaching towards them. So still now we don't clearly say that what is the strange figure look like, but later we will find out that what is the strange figure actually is. And straight the sun was flecked with birds. Heaven's mother sent us grace. As if through a dungeon grate he peered, with a broad and burning face. So, whenever the strange figure is coming, the mariners could see that the strange figures, through the strange figure, they could see the sun, and to them it seems that Mother Mary had sent the figure to save them, uh, to provide them salvation. As if through a dungeon grate he peered with a broad and burning face, and it seems to the mariners of the ship that the sun is actually peeping through them behind a bird. That means that the strange figure is creating a certain kind of obstacle, and behind the obstacle the sun is shining, and therefore the mariners are observing the sun just from the obstacle. As thought I, and my heart beat loud. How fast she nears and nears. Are those her sails that glance in the sun like restless gossamers? Alas, I thought, and my heart beat loud. So whenever that shape is coming towards them, whenever that strange figure is coming towards them, the speaker felt a certain kind of afraid in heart, and therefore his heart began to beat loud. And then he said, Alas, really it's misfortune, it's unfortunate how fast she nears and nears, how fast that strange figure, that strange shape is coming towards them. So the speaker is feeling a certain kind of apprehension in himself. He is not actually sure whether the strange figure is good or bad. So that's why he exclaims with the word alas. Are those her sails that glance in the sun? And from the distance, the sailor could see that that strange figure had some fine dresses which are just hanging and which are shining in the sun, and it seems that these clothes or these dresses are really restless due to the continuous commotion uh, of the strange figure. Are those her ribs through which the sun did peer as through a grate? And in that woman all her crew, and is that a death? And are there two? Is the death that women's mate? So this stanza clears us the actual identity of the strange figure. Ribs is equal to skeleton. So we may say that the strange figure which is coming towards them, it may be a certain kind of sheep which is only has skeletal in it and nothing more than that. And there are some kind of dresses that or clothes that are hanging behind and across the ship. So the speaker says that are those her ribs through which the sun did peer as through a grate. Grate is a certain kind of hole where the magma or lava comes out. So this means that the sun is shining just behind the ribs of the skeletal of the ship, and it seems that the sun is peeping out from a hole. And in and is that women all her crew? And the speaker is not at all sure who are the actual crew member in the ship, but what he could observe is that maybe there is a certain kind of women, a strange women. So therefore the mariner says that is that women all her crew. So it is sure, quite sure that there is only a woman in the crew. Is that a death? And he is not at all sure. So therefore the mariner or the speaker puts again another question: is that a death? So this means that the women which in the rib, which in the ship, is her name death? And are there two? Or he is not at all sure whether there is only death or there is any other element which is giving company to death. Is death the women's mate, or is there only death that the women is carrying with him, that the women is getting company from death? Her lips are red, her looks were free. So the spectator or the speaker or the mariner now has a glimpse of the crew member of the approaching element, and it seems that it is a skeleton of a ship, and on the ship there is a woman, and therefore the figure or the sentence says that her lips were red. So this woman has lips which are red, her looks were free, and he is looking wildly as if he is really frightening. Her looks were yellow as gold, and her looks or hair are really as golden as yellow. Her skin was as white as leprosy, and the color of the skin is white, just like the skin of a leprosy patient. We know that in a leprosy patient we see the whiteness in skin. Similarly, here the women has the skin which is nothing but white. The nightmare life in a death was she, and the woman's name is the nightmare life in a death, who thicks man's blood with cold. And the strange figure is so much frightening that if any onlooker looks at her, her blood will get thickened, her blood will clot into thick blood. The naked Hulk alongside came. So this means that the skeleton of the ship has really reached now, and it is now standing just beside the ship of the mariner. And the twain were casting dice, and there are seen two figures who are playing dice. The game is done, I have won, quoth she. And then the women said that the game is over. That means that whatever was in the game in the form of a gambling, she has won the match, and she will decide what to do and what not to do. And whistles thrice, and then he blows her whistle. So this means that the woman has won the dice, and he is going to take the control of the mariner, of the speaker, while the others will be taken away by death. So here we must have to remember the two idea, that the twine, that means that on the hulk of the ship, or on the skeletal of the ship, there were two figures, one is death and one is life in a death. So here life in a death won the game, and he is going to take the control of the speaker mariner. The sun rims deep, the stars rush out, at one stride comes the dark. So whenever she means life in a death whistles, or blows his whistle thrice, then in the entire atmosphere sudden changes come. First the sun's rim dips. First the sun shakes itself into the dark shroud of oblivion. The stars rush out, and instantly in the dark sky there appears star. At one straight comes the dark, and instantly the dark prowls over everywhere, with far-heard whisper over the sea, and over the sea the mariners could hear the whispering sound, as if some strange figures are whispering to each other. Upshot the spectra burst, and instantly all became really frightened. We listened and looked sideways up, fear at my heart as at a cup. So whenever the mariners could listen the whispering sound of the speakers of the strange figures, their whispering sound was heard by all the mariners, and they looked sideways up, and then they looked towards the ship that has approached to them. Fear at my heart as at a cup, and I was totally engulfed by fear, and it seems that my heart is shrinking just like a cup. So here the comparison is that the heart is gradually shrinking and taking or becoming smaller in size. My life blood seemed to sip, and it seems that the blood which is flowing through my veins are taking away by something, or being sipped by some strange element which the speaker cannot understand. The stars were dim, and the thick the night. Gradually, the stars' light become blurred and dim, and the night thickens itself. The steersman's face by his lamp gleamed white, and then the speaker could see that the steersman, or the driver, who took the overwhelming possession of the ship, he appeared quite white by the light that glowed behind her face. So the mariner, or the speaker mariner, looked the steersman face white. From the sail, the dew did drip. So, from the sail, the dewdrop falls down till clomb above the eastern bird the horned moon, and instantly, and then a crescent moon rose in the eastern sky, with one bright star within the nether tip, and within the reach of the moon or within the periphery of the moon there is a star which is pursuing the moon. One after one by the star-dogged moon, too quick for groan or sigh, each turned his face with a ghastly pang and crushed me with his eyes. One after one, by the star-dogged moon, gradually the mariners, or all the onboard mariners, from them one after one, too quick for the groan or sigh, due to the strange appearance of the moon, due to the crescent appearance of the moon, they are making groaning sound, they are sighing. Each turned his face with a ghastly pang, and each made some expression in such a way that they are expressing some ghastly pang, they are expressing some agonizing suffering, they are uh, just showing their ghastly pang, and cursed me with his eyes, and as if all the sailors are cursing me with their eyes, as they are not able to speak out, but from their facial expressions, from the movement of their eyes, it was understood by the mariner that the co-mariners were actually cursing him. 4 times 50 living men, and I heard nor sigh nor groan with a heavy thump, a lifeless lump that dropped down one by one. 4 times 50 living men. That means that 200 people. 4 times multiplied by 50. That means that 200 sailors. And in the ship, probably there were 200 mariners who one by one fall down, and therefore whenever they are falling down they are not making any kind of groaning sound, and as a result, and I heard nor sigh nor groan. As a result, the speaker mariner is not able to hear any kind of sigh or any kind of groan. With a heavy thump, a lifeless lump, and gradually all the figures became lifeless, and they are just fallen, just like a lump. They dropped down one by one, and gradually they fell down into the mast of the ship one by one. They are not at all groaning, they are not at all shrieking, but one by one they fell down. The souls did from their bodies fly. Gradually, the souls flew away from their bodies. That means that they are now lifeless. They are all now dead. They fled to bliss or woe. The speaker says that I don't know where their souls are, whether their souls are in heaven or in hell. They don't know, but it is sure that their souls have fled to bliss or woe. And every soul it passed by me, and every soul of the mariner passed by me like the whiz of my crossbow. So the bow by which I killed the albatross, and whenever there came the arrow, it makes some wheezy sound. Similarly, here the expression is that from the body the souls are passing out, and whenever they are coming out from the body they are making some sound, and the sound is quite similar, just like a wheeze. So wheeze is the sound that is usually made by crossbow when arrows are thrown towards its aim. So this is the meaning of the third part. So hope you have understood everything. If you have the text in your face and read the text, surely you will be able to have a clear idea of the poem. So far I have tried to clarify the part and the lines of the poem. If you like this, please subscribe my channel and like and share so that others can have a look and can have some understanding. So thank you once again, and thank you all of you for sparing your time in learning this poem, especially the part 3, which is crucial one in this poem. So once again, thank you to all of you.